Coach, hey, thanks for joining me today on this Simple Coach to Coach interview. Always appreciative, more appreciative of the fact that you've never been on before. You are a rookie. So exciting times here at Simple Coach TV. Thanks again, and looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to it as well.
All right. So as I mentioned, you are indeed a rookie. So you've never been on the channel. And so I always start with the first question for all my rookies. Maybe you could just sort of talk a little bit about your soccer journey, sort of how you started, how you ended up at Ripon, and making the mark that you are. So.
Yeah, I'm a rookie. I'm really hoping though I'm going to go viral from all this, and
Yeah,
I'm going to be on
this
everybody.
is it. This is it.
Right?
This is
ESPN will be
it.
calling
Yeah.
soon, I would guess.
Oh, totally.
So
This happens.
yeah,
It's totally going to happen. ESPN
right,
will
right.
call.
I appreciate that. Okay, so my coaching journey, I'm actually mine's kind of a boring journey. In full honesty, I'm ripping through and through.
Hmm.
Bleed Red Hawk. I started here as a player, 2008. Had a great career here, captained the side for 3 years, and won a title while I was here. And then, like a lot of guys, when I was about 18, I started coaching youth soccer in camps, and then get done with college, coaching club. Got asked to come back and be an assistant coach here. Assistant coached for I think 4 years here at Ripon. And then you get married, and when you get married, sometimes you move away and you go do other things. And then I don't know, the stars just aligned. In full honesty, we were moving back into the area. I had been coaching club in high school, and the head coach that was here at Ripon at the time took another job with about 3 weeks to go before the season. So it was a tight turnaround. And the administration called and said, "Hey, we're kind of in a bind. Is there any chance that you'd come back?" And for me, it was a kind of a dream opportunity, to be able to come back in 2019, and so now I've been here since then.
Is it? Were they just looking to fill? I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. Were they just looking to fill a spot because there was the vacancy, or I mean, did they have a bigger picture in mind? Like they wanted you to come in and do. I'm not saying that this is the case, and I don't know how, but like rebuild or start or do something different.
Yeah, I think I can't speak to exactly what the administration's
Mm-hmm.
plans were when I got brought in. I do think that, um, well, I can be honest about it. I was interim when they brought me in, right?
Uh
And it
huh.
wasn't like, hey, you're going to be our guy for forever.
Yeah.
They ultimately, like most Division III programs, they wanted to see an increase in roster size,
Right.
because the team was a little bit smaller, and they wanted to see a performance increase.
Yeah.
And so I had a really good first year in terms of recruitment. It was a really challenging first year in
Right.
terms of soccer. The team was not very strong when we first arrived, and the infrastructure wasn't there for those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but ultimately, yeah, I mean, I think we were able to achieve some of those things over the last few years, and I'm for me, I see this as a long-term position for me. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
coaches want to leave after 2, 3 years in a
Mm-hmm.
position, 4 years in a position. I really enjoy it here. I enjoy the challenges. We're lucky to have a lot of really nice things, so that makes it
Mm-hmm.
easy too as a coach. Yeah.
that, that makes it easier to sell if you have nice things, right? Like that.
Yeah, it's not, as you know, it's not all about how shiny your things are, but it certainly sets a nice standard and makes
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
environment professional. And we've been lucky. We've had great support from donors and alumni over the
Mm-hmm.
last couple of years, especially coming out of COVID,
Mm-hmm.
building a new soccer stadium and updating our grass facilities. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's been really cool.
I will say I do nice things. I do like your jersey that you have on. And just
Thanks.
yeah. um, it, just because you sort of talked about it, like at Ripon, how important do they view athletics in general? Like the administration, the president, all that stuff. How critical does is athletics in general, from your perspective, for the school?
Uh, I would never say that it's more important than the academics.
Mm-hmm.
We have an incredible academic environment,
Mm-hmm.
but athletics is a very close second. They're very serious about our athletics here. Like a lot of smaller Division III schools, it helps with enrollment, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it helps create a really good community. And quite honestly, like with our soccer guys, we have a lot of really good student athletes here, but some guys that, although they were great students in high school, maybe wouldn't have continued into the college ranks if
Yeah.
they didn't have soccer with them as well. And so, yeah, it's a really critical piece of our institution, and you can see that from searching news articles about Ripon College athletics online and
Yeah.
seeing the amount of money we've put into the infrastructure here.
Yeah.
We built a new athletic building in 17-18. That was a $23 million project. We built
Yeah.
a new soccer stadium. That was an $8 million
Mm-hmm.
project. And for a smaller school, those are big, big
Big
dollar
dollars.
amounts,
Yeah.
to put
Yeah.
into those types of things.
Yeah. What was your first year? 19 or 18?
2019 would have
19.
been the first year.
What?
Yeah, that fall.
All right. I'm going to ask you that. Why was it such a challenge soccer wise?
Well, in full honesty, first off, the roster was really small.
Uh huh.
We showed up, there were 19 players on the roster. So, I took the job with 3 weeks to go. Okay, so there was no recruitment. Yeah, there was no recruitment. There were
Enough
19
said.
players on the roster. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think you would know this, and any other coach at the college ranks would know this. I think sometimes if you've never coached college, you're a high school, you're a club coach, you hear 19, that's fine, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
19's manageable. It's not. Um, we and well, I'll just say this: the first the the first week, I start calling players. I get the
Mm-hmm.
job. I don't think the culture was there either around training and around this being a really high level program.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we've certainly changed that since then, but I start calling players and I'm introducing myself and saying, "Hey, I'm really excited. How's summer training going?" And I'm not joking. The response from some of the guys was, "I plan to start soon." We're 3 weeks out, right? And so it was troublesome. And as you get a couple injuries. Now you're down to
Yeah.
16, 15 players, and everybody knew it that we were small. And every game we played, teams were playing 20, 22 players and just
Yeah.
running the
Running.
hell out of
Yeah.
us. I
Yeah.
mean, like bang, bang, press, attacking transition,
Yeah.
play vertical. It was tough, man.
Yeah.
It was really tough. COVID was actually, this is going to sound terrible. I hated most of COVID. It was actually a good thing for our program.
Yeah.
Like it gave us a minute to like sit down and say, okay, which positional areas do we need to address? How do
Mm-hmm.
we address the cultural side of things? How do we make this environment more professional without having to worry about
Yeah.
the ups and downs of a season and the wins and the
Yeah.
losses? So it actually gave us like a great platform to get things right. And then that's kind of where we kind of twisted it a little bit and got things going in the right direction.
Yeah. What? So you said you had 19. You have what? I mean, it looks like you have, holy mackerel, um, upwards of 30, maybe upward.
Yeah, we'll carry like around high 30s or like up to 40 is kind
Yeah.
of like our number now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have anything that, like, for guys that come in, that they get make sure that they get games? Like, do you have? I don't want to say like a developmental squad or like schedule or anything like that.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think it's an important question
Yeah.
for recruits too when they're looking at different teams and trying to figure it out. In the Midwest here, so if you look like at the Midwest Conference, the NAC, the WIAC, the CCIW, the MIAC, all those leagues,
Mm-hmm.
the average roster size right now is like, if you put all those leagues together, it's like about 37 and a half, 38 players.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're right in there, like in that 30, 39, 40
Mm-hmm.
number. Everybody, though, handles those rosters differently
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like, are you training the team separately? Are you sending guys away to go to extra matches? Do you have the staff to do it?
Mm-hmm.
I've been really lucky. We have a big staff here, so there's
Mm-hmm.
5 of us
Mm-hmm.
that are on
Wow.
staff, and that's really helped me to be able to manage that roster size.
Mm-hmm.
We play a reserve schedule, so
Mm-hmm.
we play 9 or 10 games a
Mm-hmm.
year that those guys are going to play. But we select the reserves, so maybe there's one game a week. We select a reserves team every week, so that roster, it's incredibly competitive. Like you
Mm-hmm.
want to try to make that first team roster,
Yeah.
and so guys are really fighting for that. It's been, I will say, we didn't do that my first couple years here. We didn't have a reserves group like that. So you're carrying, let's say, 32 or 34 players. You've got 10 guys that don't see the field the entire year,
Mm-hmm.
right? By extending it to 38 or 40, now we have enough guys to run that
Mm-hmm.
kind of like second team. Now everyone's getting game time.
Yeah.
And we've got guys like, as you know, right? You have freshmen that come in here that are elite players, like from top clubs, top high schools,
Yeah.
had great careers, and they're really good. They're just not ready,
They're just not right. Yeah. Yeah.
right? And they sometimes they only need 2 reserve games, and now they're starting on the first team. They just needed like that confidence of getting
Yeah.
in and playing other college players, and so it's been really great. It's been great for retention,
Mm-hmm.
keeping guys around that want to be part of the team, and great for development.
Yeah. I would think that would have been the hard thing, right? And that's why I asked, like, if you have such a large roster, and like, and there's a handful of guys that all they're doing every day is showing up for training and getting nothing. I don't want to say nothing, but you know what I mean? Like, there's no, hey, you get to play a game now.
Right.
Like that's got to be a major. That makes it very difficult. Like, because it's to me, it's hard to justify. I'm training, and I'm not playing. It doesn't necessarily make sense to me, right? Like, I think that's hard. I think that's hard on a player. Um, what and you're 6 years, yeah, 6 years on. Hey, what do you think has been the biggest challenge for you? Especially that you
That's
have this continuity with Ripon, right? Like this, you have
yeah.
this longer as a player, all that kind of stuff. Like, what's been your biggest challenge?
Well, I think there's probably a lot of challenges. I think that there's been a lot. Listen, I shouldn't sound negative. There's a lot of great stuff.
Yeah,
Rippon's incredible. I mean,
yeah.
it's a good place, and again, we're really lucky to have the things we have. But I would say the biggest challenge since I've come here was kind of changing the mentality of the
Mm-hmm.
players. We had this kind of odd culture here, even at Ripon College when I first arrived, and I think we've really changed that as a department. That you would hear these sayings like, "Well, it's stop acting like it's Division 1, right?
Uh,
It's just Ripon College, right?" Like those would be kind of the things people would say,
yeah,
and
yeah.
we really like there was kind of this big turnover. There are a lot of new coaches that came in the last 5 to 7 years here at Ripon, and we really, with our athletic director, we really all sit down and we say, okay, we want to change that mentality as a group. Like we
Mm-hmm.
want to emulate what top Division 1 programs are doing. We want to emulate what
Yeah,
professional teams are doing. We want to create that type of environment for the student athletes that come here, and I think we've done a really good job of that.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
And that was hard. That was hard, and obviously, as you probably understand, it permeates down through into the players and what they think about themselves and what they think in terms of their performance and who they are as players and people, and that it just doesn't work. Like if you want to win games and you want to be a competitive program, um, there has to be an expectation, a
yeah,
culture of expectation, and a culture of professionalism
yeah,
within the squad, but also within your department and within your institution.
yeah,
So I think that was a big change that we had to go through, and getting the infrastructure right around that with leadership within our squad, with staffing. When I started here, I didn't have an assistant, so
mm-hmm.
just on my own, right? So getting staffing right, and yeah. So I would say, I know that's kind of like maybe a cookie cutter answer, but it was, yeah, that's what I would say was challenging.
It's interesting that you say that because, and it literally never occurred to me, but all of the coaches I speak with and all the programs I look into, the ones that find success, they're not saying that, right? They're not saying, "Oh, it's just X college. It's just
Right,
Division 3.
right.
We're not Division 1." Like the best ones out there, they treat this like there's no other soccer program.
Yep.
Like this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. You have to treat it this way. You have to be professional. The expectations on players are, I don't want to say exorbitant, but like, right, like we have very high expectations of players. The really really good ones, the programs that compete and win is very serious that way. Like don't I don't it's it. I think it's a requirement. Like you can't have
Yeah, I
you
think so too.
hate to say it, like you can't have half-ass players, right? Half committed, right? Half committed.
Right.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
commit to play, but you know what? I'm not going to work. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. And once you start getting that, you just sort of everything starts to fray, and you're just never going to compete. Um,
Yeah, I think you're dead on. Yeah.
this is a question I've been asking because I am very intrigued by it. I'm very intrigued by the Midwest just because I think there's an inordinate amount of great soccer that gets played in the Midwest, and I don't. I mean, it's silly, but it's like I don't understand. Like, hey, it's the Midwest. Why is there such great soccer? And everyone talks about California and like different, like all these like beautiful places. I'm like the Midwest. The Midwest is where there's such a talent pool. What in in particular in Wisconsin? Why do you think there that is?
It's a really good question. I think ultimately, if you look kind of where we're located, so we're central Wisconsin, we do obviously a lot of recruiting in this area.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of time in Madison, Milwaukee, Chicago area, Twin Cities, things like that. I think there's a couple things there. Number one, I think that the infrastructure exists for soccer to be strong in this area. There's money in
Mm-hmm.
those areas. That's unfortunately like that's kind of a requirement these days.
Yeah.
Is there are there nice fields? Is there access to trainers? Is there access to coaches? Is there access to athletic clubs and weight rooms? And so I think there's a lot of that
Mm-hmm.
now, and that infrastructure has grown significantly, especially in the last 20 years. There's a really strong culture in Milwaukee, especially I can speak more to like Milwaukee, Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
of a really strong immigrant culture, right?
Yeah.
That have come to those areas. Obviously, a lot of Germans and
Mm-hmm.
Polish and Eastern Europeans, and most of Europe, and then
Yeah.
later in that process, South Americans, and
Yeah.
traveling into those areas and populating those neighborhoods and bringing obviously soccer and again culture
Yeah.
of that with them. And I think that those things have certainly helped grow the sport here. Helped with youth, domestic youth, even like having good access to coaches then now because you have
Mm-hmm.
these immigrant players and coaches coming over, and
Mm-hmm.
now those players have good access. And so there's a long culture and a long history of that in the Midwest as well. That's
Mm-hmm.
really helped.
Yeah. It's interesting. I just really, like I said, the amount of great teams that you are surrounded by and play, right? It's to me, it's like wow, it's pretty unique. Um, what are you like? What's the type of player you look for? Like if you, I mean, obviously academics and all you want,
Hmm.
like upstanding
Right.
guy, like I get that, but like what is it you're looking from a soccer perspective out of somebody who's looking at Ripon or that you might be interested in and be like, this is a guy that we want in our program because we know he's going to bring X and we need X.
Yeah, that's a good question. I do
I
think that
only ask
the
good
answer.
questions if you haven't noticed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, obviously, right? No, it's interesting though because I think the answer to that evolves every single year in
Hmm.
terms of what we want and what we're looking for. The in vogue answer right now from coaches is, we have player profiles, and this is the player in the specific area, and these are the traits that we're looking
Yeah.
for, and we have player profiles too. Everybody does.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody has profiles for the specific positions that they're trying to evaluate and what they're trying to do, and I think players are always really impressed by that when you speak to them and you tell them. And so that's why it's the in vogue answer, right?
Yeah.
But to me, the kind of the reality of it is, of course, we want players that are specific to what we're trying to do as a program in terms of
Hmm.
our system. But ultimately, for me, our system changes every year. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not a coach that's like married to a specific, this is exactly the formation, this is exactly how we play.
Mm-hmm.
We make adjustments pretty significantly every year based off what we think we have. And so what we really are going to look for to start when we're beginning our recruiting process is kind of three main characteristics, and they're very broad and they're very big picture. But I think if you don't have them, you don't make it. Okay, so the first one that we always look for is activity to try to get the ball for players. So we want guys that are really whatever position, goalkeeper through forwards up top, are they active in their movement off the ball to try to get it? So we do a lot of evaluation on off ball movement. Okay. The second thing, and I'm not a cross country coach, but they have to run. They have to want the ball in counter press moments and getting the ball
Mm-hmm.
back. They have to be aggressive in attacking transition moments and running forward. They have to recover behind the ball with their teammates. If they don't do that, they just, again, I think they'll struggle when they come to this next level. And then the third piece that I look for a lot with guys is really a mentality piece. And so what we're looking at, specifically the moments I love to look at and watch with players, are when things are going really well or when things are going shit
Mm-hmm.
for them, right? Like when the team scores a goal and you weren't involved, or you were involved, whatever, do you go and celebrate with your teammates?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are you a celebratory player, which is one of our identity pieces? Celebratory is a big identity piece for us. We,
Yeah.
we actually make our guys in small sided games. If you beat the opposition, we always have the losers have to do something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't celebrate with your team, then you do whatever the losers do. That's what we say,
Hmm.
right? Because losers don't celebrate,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
big one for me. So are they celebratory? And then when things are shit, when things are bad, right? When you get scored on, how do players react, or when you get a yellow card, or when things go against you, when you miss an open goal, you miss an easy save, how do you react in those moments? So I think we start with those things first, and I think that really gives us a good idea of like
Mm-hmm.
what is the player going to bring to the table ultimately. Do they have a good potential for growth in our environment? And then of course, like I said, you have to evaluate as well the kind of
Mm-hmm.
positional specific needs of a player as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. What you personally? What's your fave? What like what? I mean, usually if you were a midfielder, like your favorite player, like a midfield oriented kind of guy. Like, what's your favorite type of player?
Oh, that's a good, yeah. All right, that's an interesting one. I've never been asked that. Your favorite type of player?
Yeah.
I think what we generally end up, and this isn't my favorite type. I'll say what we generally end up recruiting a lot of.
Mm-hmm.
We do end up recruiting a lot of central midfield players,
Yeah.
right? And then and because I think we have a really good development environment, like
Mm-hmm.
they might not play as a central midfield player for us. They
Yeah.
they might play as a fullback. They might play as a forward. Coming
Mm-hmm.
off that top line and coming back into the midfield to create overloads. They might, honestly. We've had guys move into the center back spot
Mm-hmm.
from there, and they've been really successful.
Yeah.
Playing in that role. Of course, it requires. Um, it requires the right environment for the player to be able to do that. And it,
Right.
it requires a good understanding and honesty with the player, and sitting down with them and showing them film and having conversations about why would
Mm-hmm.
you do that, or why would you move them in those
Sure.
positions. Yeah. But we've had good success with that. I think because you're bringing in guys that are relatively technical, relatively athletic from that point of view. And also, let's just be honest, if they're playing centrally at a high level club high school team, they're having to make a lot more decisions than a lot
Mm-hmm.
of other players are. And I think that ultimately that's decision making is what drives the success of a lot of players.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm always curious about that, right? Like I said, because and like you see a lot of guys who just are typecast to what they were um, when they played. Like I was an elite center back, and so they have the attributes in their mind of a player who's going to be a great player are the ones that have the attributes of ultimately a center back that they did or whatever position they played. And if they were a winger, they love the guys who get up and down, 100 miles an hour, right? Like it just anyhow. Always
No,
curious
I
about.
suppose I never thought of it like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I never really, and that's why I don't think anyone's ever asked me that question.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting way to
We
think of
we
it. And I think you're probably right. You're probably
yeah.
right. Coaches probably gravitate
Yeah.
towards a
Yeah.
specific type of player that they're kind of interested in.
Yeah, yeah. I always used to say this, and when I was coaching at Princeton, that um, we always had a team of midfielders, and that's because the head coach, and it's not a rip. I mean, we had some great teams over the years that I was there that were midfielders in his mold, and so because he wanted to play a certain style that was sort of the way he liked to play, um, and again, it's not a bad thing. It's just sort of I always think about that now too, like how a team, how how does the team reflect the way the coach used to play or envisioned how he played when he was a player? Well,
Yeah, we all
yeah,
probably remember
yeah,
ourselves as better than we
yeah.
really
Oh,
were,
I was
don't we?
so good. I was so good.
Anytime anyone asks me, I just go, "I was shit." Yeah, I'm the
Yeah,
same. I'm
yeah,
the opposite. I
yeah,
might have been good. I don't know, but
yeah, yeah.
I was
I,
not good.
I
Yeah, I was
couldn't
no
even
good. Yeah,
kick a ball. That's why I'm a coach, right? Like,
right, right,
yeah.
right.
Um,
That's funny.
hey, I'm just looking at your 2025 schedule. If I'm going to circle a team, if I'm going to circle a game, which game would, or if you were to circle a game, and this is a loaded question. This is like locker room material, right, for the other teams that you play. So
Right,
just
right.
tread cautiously. Like if you're circling a game on the calendar, which one is it?
Oh man, uh, that is a tough question. I think, well, I can be honest with that. Of course, you could say I could try to get out of this by saying every league game matters, right? I could do that. I can try to do
Boo.
that for you. I think for all of us, any time you ask any coach, you want to beat the best teams in your league,
Yeah.
and I think that that's fair to say. And so for us, right now, if you look kind of historically at our league, Lake Forest is that team,
Yeah.
and yeah, we want to beat them. Right, they're a good squad.
Yeah.
We've had good matchups with them the last few years. We lost them last year, tied with them the 2 years before that.
Mhm.
And so ultimately, yeah, that would be a team if you wanted to circle a game that's going to be first off a really good game to watch
Mhm.
and really competitive um, and pretty aggressive. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, especially for a neutral, it would be a really fun game to watch. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that's a fair answer. I like the guy. I have guys who like run through like the whole schedule. Oh, and if you look at this team and you look at that team, I'm just like
I'm
this.
not gonna. I'm not. You want me to do that? I don't think you want me to do that today. That game's always fun. And the other game that's always really fun for us is we started a local like derby with Marion University. So
Uh-huh.
that's the second game of the year, and Highway 23 connects the two schools. So
Uh-huh.
we're not in league with them, but it's like an early season game. We call it the
Yeah.
Highway 23 Derby. A lot
Nice.
of people come
Oh,
out.
that's
It's
so
really
cool.
fun. And Keegan, the coach over there, he was really into it. I proposed it to him a couple years ago, and we started it last year. And
Mhm.
in the match, it's like the teams
Yeah.
are. But
Yeah.
afterwards, a lot of the guys know each other because
Uh-huh.
they're like local guys and they
Yeah.
play against each other, and so that's been really fun too to kind of start that kind of relationship with another
Uh-huh.
program.
I might have to reach out to him then. Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah, see
reach
if he
out to
says
him.
the same thing. He might
Yeah.
say, "I hate that guy. It's not fun at
Yeah,
all."
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that might be
Those guys,
bad.
I never liked them. I
Yeah,
just felt like a pressure from the
right.
AD. Like,
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You might as well reach out to him. Yeah, Keegan's great. Yeah, he's
yes.
really great. A good coach, a lot of experience, and has done a nice job with his team too. Yeah.
Um, how? So another question, because you are Wisconsin, and I apologize. It's not so much you, but like, how much of a how much of a vortex of recruiting or a black hole of recruiting are the UW schools?
Well, that's kind of new for us, in full
Mm-hmm.
honesty, right? Stevens Point started last year. River Falls started last year.
Yeah.
Stout started last year. Of course, Platteville
Yeah.
has been around and in elite for a long time. Whitewater around in elite for a long time. Eau Claire just a few years ago starting their program and elite pretty
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
immediately. The reality of it is, and this is not a knock on any of those schools, these are Division I level
Yeah.
equipped, sized schools
Yeah.
with really, really, especially for in-state, but now they're getting better with out-of-state, really, really competitive academic scholarship packages
Uh-huh.
that are flying under the D3 banner,
Yeah.
right? And
Interesting.
it's amazing. I mean, it's really cool when you look at last year, Eau Claire, Platteville, Superior, all making Sweet 16
Yeah. Yeah.
out of Wisconsin. That's incredible. I
Yeah.
mean, from one state and all from a league now. Right? It's all
Mm.
going to be consolidated now.
Yeah.
They'll all be playing with each other. So yeah, it's for in-state guys. It's really hard for us
Yeah.
to like not that we don't get in-state guys,
Yeah.
but we have to be early. We have to
Yeah.
be early in seeing them and identifying them. I think, if you talk to a Wisconsin basketball coach, football coach, baseball coach, they'd say, like, we've been dealing with this for years. Stop
Yeah.
whining about it, right? They'd say, like, don't you dare
Yeah.
complain about that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's I will say it's challenging. I'm not going to lie. It's
Yeah.
hard to recruit against those schools. Financially, generally, we've become I think we've had to adjust. And you'll
Mm.
see that with a lot of the privates, like
Mm.
in the Wisconsin, even Illinois, Northern Illinois area. They've made adjustments to the way that they package students in
Mm.
order to become more competitive with a really strong state state school system. What's interesting though is from out of state, most most states don't have a really strong state school system like
Yeah.
Wisconsin
Yeah.
does with high level
Yeah.
academic and
Yeah.
athletic programs. And so a lot of guys don't know.
Yeah.
They have no clue kind of what's going on out there.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock on anybody. It's just they
Yeah.
don't, how would they know,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that's going on?
Yeah. I know the UW schools from, um, in particular, Whitewater and La Crosse. Um, I went to, I'm a Purple Raider, University of Mount Union, and they
Hmm.
played football and competitive, in NCAAs and all that kind of stuff. So I'm familiar with it. I always just wondered, like, that those become by default almost like the default schools for people. You know what I mean? Like, I just think it's the
They do.
nature of a state school, right? Like, oh, where are you going? What's your safety school, or what's your, right? Like, it becomes a UW school. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm just saying
I
that's
think
what I
you
think
no,
is
I think you're
theory. Yeah.
Yep, I think you're right. I think you take a Whitewater with football, for
Mm-hmm.
example. If you're not getting a big Division 1 offer somewhere,
Yeah.
you'll forego that Division 1 search and have a Division 1 level experience
Experience. Yeah.
at Whitewater,
Yeah.
right? And yeah, I think
Yeah.
that for soccer, you're starting to see that now,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that said, I will say it's really good for competition in this area.
Yeah.
You've always got good matches against good teams,
Yeah.
and it's challenging, but it's good.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. No, I think it's a good thing. Like, I just,
mhm.
it, whether you like it or not, right? It's going to force you as a head coach to sort of do things differently, think differently. How are we going to get these players that everybody want? Like, and you're going to have to play it. You can't do the same thing year in and year out because those guys are always adjusting, right? And they have sort of built-in advantage of, like I said, just being a UW school and, like
Yep.
you said, a Division 1 experience in Division 3. So,
Yeah, and I think in just to add on to that, I think there are a lot of private schools like us that are doing that too,
mm-hmm.
right? The difference I think ultimately is going to be the size of that school,
Yeah,
and I'm saying for us from an athletic point of view,
yeah,
right? For size of the school is different, and I think ultimately then there's the challenge just of making the finances line up,
yeah, yeah,
and making the finances
yeah,
work, right?
yeah, yeah. All right, you said something interesting before that you don't necessarily have I don't want to say a system that you every year in and year out you're just sort of basing it off of the personnel you have. If you were to say how you want your team to play ultimately, what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think, kind of formation changes, tactics change, principles of play are going to remain relatively similar year to year.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we're making adjustments with our staff, but I can keep it really simple. I think from an attack perspective, we're we really focus a lot on progression with our team.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have a lot of KPIs. We're really lucky. We have a good buddy of mine that I played with here, who's a data analytics director for another company. I've tricked him into working for us. It's been wonderful. So he does all of our performance
Good
analytics
trick.
works.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good trick. I'm a tricky guy. So he's a close friend, and so he's been working with us the last couple of years, and he's helped a lot with data for our players and
Mm-hmm.
providing key performance indicators for the guys in terms of things that they should be focusing on. So we spend a lot of time looking at progression, especially in the attacking transition moments. Are we our first actions forward? Are we trying to take space right away? We talk a lot about the speed of the attack, and one thing we work on with our especially midfield players delivering balls into attacking players is can we speed those players up? It's much harder to defend if we can be running at players.
Yeah.
And then tactically on the attacking side of the ball, most of what we do is going to revolve around creating numerical superiority. So whether that's kind of overloading midfield areas or overloading to play through the middle
Mm-hmm.
or overloading wide areas to go around the outside to teams.
Mm-hmm.
Defensively, uh, I think we really make a lot of adjustments defensively from match to match.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, kind of our non-negotiables are the way we respond to the loss of the ball. So
Mm-hmm.
the way we counter press, and then I think there's two sides to that. There's the immediate pressure on the player with the ball, and then it's what is everybody else doing, right? Are we
Yeah.
dropping? Are we getting numbers behind the ball? Are we compressing the space and stepping with that player? Um, I think we talk a lot defensively as well, just about relentless defending, and we've been pretty good in the defensive categories. So we'll generally, not every game, but we'll generally start matches pressing teams and then kind of pretty high, and of course the principles of that press are going to change match to match, but
Yeah.
then dropping into a block that we're going to use and play behind.
Mm-hmm.
So I think those are very, without giving you our entire game model, those are some very like
Yeah.
general ideas that year to year. I think the other thing we talk a lot with our players about, and I think this is actually a big part of principles of play that maybe some coaches miss, is the identity that you want to build
Mm-hmm.
around your team in terms of regardless of, is it a 4-4-2, is it a 4-3-3, is it a 3-5-2, regardless of the shape, what is the identity? And we kind of always talk about five main things for us. So, in intensity, bravery, competitiveness, relentlessness, and celebratory are
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the five things that we
Yeah.
talk a lot about with our group. And so like when we train, we actually start, and this is maybe a little different than other coaches, but we'll start by saying, what is the identity or the identity pieces that we're trying to address today?
Mm-hmm.
That's how we'll like start a training session with our
Yeah.
guys, and they walk into the locker room, and we normally we put it up on the screen or we have it up on the board or whatever. These are the identity pieces that we're going to try to address today, and then we get into the principles, right? And what are the principles, and then how are we going to do it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's kind of in general when you talk about like what is Ripon College soccer and what are we about in terms of the way
Mm-hmm.
we play and attack and defend. Those are some
Mm-hmm.
kind of, I guess, general ideas.
All right, so I'm going to ask you the question going back to how you said the soccer was very hard the first year you coached. From then to now, how would you say the program looks now compared to then from that soccer perspective and those principles that you outlined?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
it's
sorry.
It's no. That's fine. That's a great question, and it's something I'm proud of.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, you wouldn't recognize us.
Yeah,
You wouldn't. When you say how does it look, you wouldn't believe it
yeah,
if you saw a team in 19
yeah,
and you saw us play now, and you can see that from our results.
yeah.
You can see that from we finished like in the regular season this year. We finished 10th in the country, I think, in total goals scored.
Mm-hmm.
You would nobody would have believed that. Right.
Yeah.
We had our first. We actually really happy for him. Sorry to lose it. We had our first Division 1 transfer. So we had a kid that got a Division 1 offer this year. Okay,
Wow.
first time in the history
Yeah,
of our program.
yeah,
Okay, nobody. If you would ask me that in 19, I would have laughed
yeah.
at you. right? But I will say this, I'd like to follow it up. It's actually gotten harder.
Yeah.
It's not gotten easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's gotten harder because now the players are so much better. The expectations are so much higher.
Yeah.
I think myself and we as a staff have gotten better at dealing with hard.
Yeah.
We tell our guys that all the time.
Yeah.
Don't I say to my boys all the time, I said, don't wait for it to get easier. It will never get easier.
Yeah.
You're not going to wake up tomorrow and it's easier. You're
Yeah.
not going to get done with your class and it's easier.
Yeah.
Just something new and harder comes up. That's how life is in
Yeah.
general,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So not to get too philosophical on you, but I think, I think to answer your question, you wouldn't recognize the team from 19. It's completely different environment, completely different level of player, completely different expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And we want to keep that going. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, we want to keep going, but it's also something we're really proud of, the work
Yeah.
that we've done in
Yeah.
the last few years.
It's funny you say that because now you probably get into the hard part of it all, right? It's one thing to, I hate to say, like come from here to here. It's harder to go from here to like
Yeah.
what's the top, right? Like what's that little extra, and finding that right formula to get you to the top, whatever that goal ends up being, right? Like that's the hard part, right? Like
You're completely right. I always say the way I describe it is we want to now go from good to great.
yeah.
Right. And that's that next step. And the analogy I've used with my boys, because some of my guys, for some reason, they've all gotten into hiking now, a bunch of them. I don't know. That's a thing this group's doing. So, and I when I was younger, I did a lot more of that too. And the analogy I use with them a lot of the times is, if you go on a long hike, you park in the parking lot and you start to walk up this mountainside. Okay. And for those that have done long peak hikes before, you know that you reach a point where it goes from being like kind of gradual and you've made a lot of ground, you've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, you got
Man,
miles.
this would be a great spot to stop
Yeah.
and take some pictures for Instagram. I'm going to look good, right? I got my nice climbing gear on, my friends, whatever. Okay, the reality of it is though, the next part is much shorter in distance to get to the peak. It's really, really short, in fact.
Yeah.
It might only be, you might have done 5 miles of hiking. You have a half a mile to go to get to the top. But that last half mile on a lot of peak hikes is a nightmare. It's like you're climbing up rocks. You could slip and fall. It's dangerous. What most people do is they get to the spot where they can take the pictures and they're like, we're good.
Yeah.
We're good. Let's take the pictures. Let's get the hell back out of here. We want to have beers in the parking lot. We're done for the day, right?
Yeah.
But the best humans and the best teams and the best whatever in your life, you finish the job, right? You get to the peak, but it's more work to finish that last half mile than it was the entire trip so far.
Yeah.
And we've talked with our guys about that, and I do think they understand that, right? I think they understand that next step and how much more needs to go into it if you want to go from good to great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. On Everest, getting to base camp is pretty much not necessarily easy, but it's a lot easier than taking that final stretch to go summit the peak, 7,000 feet in the air, right? Like,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's hard for a program but for any program, but for a program like ours that we have come such a long way.
Mm-hmm.
We have developed so much. We have done so many great things. It's always hard to say, hey, we're proud of that. American sport especially is so like go more. You're never happy. You never be good. Never be happy. Never be satisfied. Right? Yeah. And it's like if you're never satisfied, you'll never feel fulfilled in anything that you do. And part of your motivation comes from I've accomplished something. I've done a good job. Right? So it's this constant for us, this constant balance of like, hey, we've done a great job. We're really proud of what we've done, but we want to do so much more. Anyways.
Tough balance. Yeah, you're right.
It is.
All right. I'll just generally throw this out there in your area. Are there any programs that you look at and you're like, those are guys to be watching out for? Like you think they're on the cusp of something, or that they're, I wouldn't say like a Platteville or right. Like they've sort of, I don't want to say reached the pinnacle, but they've sort of gotten to a point. But like the programs that might be Yeah, just ready to take that next step, and you think it's coming soon, excluding you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah, excluding. I was gonna say, well, hopefully us. I'm thinking like we're
Yeah,
right. I do feel that way with
yeah,
us, which is really exciting. I'll say in our league, and I've given Evan this shout before. I think Illinois College has done a really nice job
mhm,
in the last handful of years. And Evan, I've spoke with him very candidly. Evan Philpott, the coach over there, that
mhm,
I think he's done a really incredible job, kind of taking a team that was always kind of like the middle and decent, and kind of
mhm,
elevating that status, for
mhm,
them. And they've done a really nice job. I know that they graduated. The challenge for them is they kind of graduated a handful of heavy
mhm,
hitters this year. And so who knows? It's always hard to know. And
mhm.
the truth of it, I think, is it's so hard to know in NCAA soccer because of just the roster rotation that
Yeah,
everybody's experiencing. And quite honestly, staffing rotations. And
yeah,
it's just so dramatic every year.
yeah.
I'm trying to think, outside of that, in our area, I don't know, like you have such right now, I think such a dichotomy of this group of teams that are just always winning everything and don't
Uh-huh.
lose a game. And then you've got a subgroup, which I would put us into, that like we win a lot of games, but we still need to make that last jump. And then you've got a lot of teams that are down here,
Yeah, yeah,
right? And so that's been kind of, I don't know that there's maybe in the Midwest right now. It doesn't feel to me like there's a ton of parity,
yeah,
like between the haves and the have-nots. But I
yeah,
don't know. I don't know if that really answers your question or
yeah,
not, but
yeah,
that's kind of
yeah,
how I feel. Yeah.
yeah. I just try to, I always look for the guys who are putting in the work you put in 5 years ago, 4 years ago, right? And they're starting to see the fruits, and
Hmm.
they're just starting to get to that. They're knocking on that door and be like, man, we just need this extra push, and then we can be at this different level, and that's sort of what I'm looking at. But I will definitely ping Evan if I haven't. Definitely that would be interesting. Um, all right. So, last question of the day for you. This is the
Okay.
the one I've gotten a kick out of asking because, well, I say it's the last question, but it never happens because then I think of other things.
That's
Um,
fine too. Yeah.
um, like in soccer in general, all over the doesn't matter the level. Like, what is it that we're not talking about that we should be?
Oh, wow. That's a tough question. Yeah.
Yes, it
Uh,
is.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think, I think, well, I could give you two things. Again, I think a question, the answer to that question that we're talking about a little bit, maybe, I think, is access for youth players.
Hmm.
I think that has been brought up, and then it kind of gets brushed under the rug every handful of years. I love the ECNL. I love MLS Next and the quality of players that they're producing out of there. Um, Gosh, they're expensive, in general, like for
Yeah.
youth players to be able to get access to. And obviously it's, and this sounds so bad almost, but we're the reason, right? We're the problem almost, right? That like students or young students or
Yeah.
young athletes want to go play in college,
Yeah.
and you go to an ECNL event and there's 150 of us on the sidelines watching them play. And so their families are spending, I talked to the family the other day. They said they thought they spent about 12,000 on the year between like club fees and travel
Easy.
fees and things.
Easy.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just like, to me, that's tough. I've worked with a lot of athletes, um, growing up when I was coaching club, especially, and even here at Ripon, that are lower socioeconomic, and
Hmm.
that really stinks, for them. So that's definitely one I would say that we're having conversations about. I think but it doesn't feel to me like there's been a lot of progress in that area. I think 20 years ago, people were saying soccer is getting elitist in this
Yeah.
country, but I don't. To me, it doesn't. If anything, it's gotten worse,
Yeah.
in that time. So, and I don't know what the answer to that question is. I don't know how you fix that.
Yeah.
So I guess I would go with that for now.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think, I know that's maybe not controversial answer. Is that what you're looking
No,
for?
no, no, no,
Controversy? Are
not
you looking for?
controversy. I'm just curious. Like, like for a long time, I used to think I knew everything, and then it dawned on me that I don't know anything. So that's why I ask these questions of others now. It's like,
Yeah.
like I thought I had the, just maybe why I am the way I am now, but like I used to think you could solve things easily or that you could see these problems pretty obviously, and it's not the case. It just depends on how you're looking at it. When it comes to the youth soccer stuff, I totally agree. I just don't know where. I just don't know how that is resolved anytime soon. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I don't think it
I
will be.
I think there would be structural things that you would have to do, and I'm a big proponent of everything should go back to the state level, right? Like so, you shouldn't have an ECNL league that forces you to go cross state lines.
Right.
Unless you have to because of like you're just there's nobody in your area and so it's easier to get
Right.
across straight that sort of thing. I'm totally willing to accept that. I'm sure in places like the Dakotas, maybe right, like,
Right. Yeah.
um, and I think that helps reduce costs. But then how do you deal with these are entities that can they're a business, so they can do whatever they want, right? Like you can't.
Yeah.
That's
The
the
money's insane.
Oh my
The money,
god.
like the amount of money behind all this stuff is crazy.
Last 10
Um,
years, I have had three at any given at all at the same time. Like I could easily say that I spent in a year when they were all three were competing at the same time, 20 grand, 30.
yeah.
Like I just don't
Yeah.
even know because it'd be like, we're going where now? We're going here. And you just
Yeah.
it's just
That's
insane.
crazy.
It's just insane. So
I got another one for you. You want my other one? Well,
sure.
I just thought of another. So
Okay.
here's some controversy. Here's one that's a little controversial. I got one for you.
Yes.
Okay. I say this to my players all the time too. Here's something that I think that nobody talks about that should be talked about. I say this to recruits too. I think everybody wants to play college soccer until they're playing college soccer.
I would.
There's one
Yeah,
for you.
yeah.
I think so many guys, they desperately think that that's what they want, right? That they really want to play at this level for any sport, probably not
Yeah,
just college
yeah,
soccer, right?
yeah.
And then they get here and the demands are so high and the expectations are so high,
Yeah.
that suddenly it's like, I don't
Yeah.
know if I really want to do
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
right? And I have that conversation with all of our incoming guys. I always say, some point in the next 2 to 3 weeks, it's the first day. I always sit them
Yeah.
down. I go, in the next 2 to 3 weeks, you'll have what I call an oh shit moment,
Yeah.
where you'll go, oh shit, I don't think I want to. I don't know if I want to do this.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can handle it. I don't know
Yeah.
if I don't know if
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if this is right for me. And I think that too often we avoid those conversations with student athletes, and our response as coaches is, oh, they're soft.
They're not
Oh,
committed.
they can't handle it. Yeah, they don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, that's not what's going on, right?
Yeah.
They're being humans.
Yeah.
We need to set
Yeah.
infrastructure or put things in place to help them with that, because this, for most of them, even the top club players, this is a huge jump.
Yeah.
It's a
Well,
huge
I
jump.
think too, you're layering on a lot, right? Like this is the first time these guys, most of them, if not all of them, have been away from home. They're right. Like they're living on their own. What does that mean to live with somebody that right? Like you have no relation with necessarily. You're throwing the soccer on and the demands of that. You're throwing on the demands of the reason why you're there, which is the studies. I think that's very true. I do think that there is something to be said about the guys who go the 4 years, right? Like it says something about them that
Huge.
they were able to, right, get through some really probably times of self-doubt, right? Like I can't do this, right? Because I think it comes to because they're overwhelmed. I think that's where it ends up being.
I think you're dead on.
Yeah.
I think that there's for us, we've tried our best, and I think we've done a very good job of it, of putting infrastructure in place to help them with that.
Yeah.
Right. Mentorship programs and leadership programs and access to tutoring and academic support and consistent meetings with players. And, that's been really helpful. But yeah, I think, man, it's a lot at once for any guy. And I think I always say whether you're coming from an hour away or you're coming from another country,
Yeah.
this transition is hard.
Hard. Absolutely.
It really
It
is.
doesn't matter. I totally agree with you. That's a great point. I mean, I'm glad you brought that up because it is not, and having witnessed my own kids, like it is not an easy thing, and it's really hard for an 17-year old to
Yeah.
sort out a lot of that noise, right? Because they've never experienced the noise before, and yeah, and I think,
Yeah.
and the worst part, I don't want to say the worst part, but the part where it really rings true to me too is like, it's like trying to get them to realize where the joy of all of it comes in, right? And I always say,
Right.
like, man, you get out on the field, there's no pressure, nobody's asking you to run, and all you're doing is kicking a ball around. Do you find enjoyment in that? And is that where you find your joy? I was like, because that's the essence of what you're doing when it comes to playing soccer, right? So anyhow, I have a lot to say about that stuff, like,
Yeah.
you
Love
know,
it. Yeah.
So anyhow. All right, Coach, this was fantastic. I was
Yeah. Thank you.
pleasantly surprised. I will definitely be watching you and your men take it this fall. But I do appreciate you taking the time. This was fun.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. That was a good time. And anytime you want to get back together, once I make it with ESPN, you let me know.
Yeah.
I'll make sure
Thank
to
you. Thanks for
keep you on the
remembering
map.
us little
Yeah.
people who got you there.
Yeah. Oh, it's cool.
If they call me and asking you for your contact information, you're totally okay if I tell them how to get in
Yeah.
touch.
No, it's
Okay.
all right. That'll be
All right.
fine. That'll be fine.
So,
Yeah.
all right.
Thanks.
All right, Coach. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks.
Thanks.